Hey there, all you ghosts and ghouls and tools. I'm your host of our magnificent new podcast, A Word On, also known as AWO. I go by Joyous Hellfire to protect my name, because we're going to be getting into some pretty controversial things. To start off, there's been I've recorded a few sessions with a few friends on this, but there's been an uproar about the new Warriors, the new Warriors that Marvel has been putting out. Everyone's covered them. The basic idea is that they're just a bunch of poorly written idiots. They're also fairly poorly designed, is how I put it. I have a few images here that you can see. We have the characters going from left to right. You have Screen Time, Snowflake, Safe Space, B Negative, and Trailblazer. And then you have the original art cover for what I believe is issue 221 of the New Warriors, with some of the older heroes and the newer heroes at the bottom. So they don't really matter. Being dead serious, completely honest, they don't really matter. The entire idea behind them is that we're going to make this new diverse cast of teen characters that relate to the youth. And as a youth, I can most poignantly say that they do not. They don't. You have Screen Time, who is a meme-obsessed super teen. I've read the description enough that I can actually read it verbatim. A meme-obsessed super teen whose brain was permanently connected to the internet when exposed to his grandfather's experimental internet gas, which already on its head is disgusting. Poorly written, unoriginal. It's ridiculous. Internet gas, people have been making memes about that, which, the biggest thing about this new cast of Warriors, the new Warriors, is that they don't matter. Marvel is taking a huge hit by doing this. Their stocks dropped. Their comic book stores are refusing to put them up because the backlash on it, and it's rightfully so, because these characters are awful. Next, the second one from the very left is Snowflake and her brother Safe Space. The description starts off, all twins are psychic, but these twins are psychicer, which is absolutely unbelievably ridiculous. So, continuing on, gonna boost up the gain here. Continuing on, on specifically Snowflake and Safe Space, you have one who's cryokinetic. They go by they them non-binary, the first non-binary character besides all the aliens in Marvel, who makes shurikens. And then you also have Safe Space over there, known as the stereotypical jock, which is ridiculous because I don't know any jock who is completely colored pink. They're supposed to be teens. What teen thinks this is cool? He can make force fields but can't inhabit them, which on its own is absolutely ridiculous. Just certain circumstances, AoE damage, area of effect, fucking bomb gets dropped, and then he's like, oh, I'll put up a force field around my friends, but then I'll die. Yeah, well, the force field will disintegrate too, so your friends are gonna die as well. There you go. It's a bad power. And the cryokinetic was done much better with in DC. I forget her name, but she wasn't on Supergirl. They did it as an original bad guy from the Justice League of America, or the Justice Society of America, with some pretty classic characters. But then they quote, it's all written by Daniel Kibblesmith, which on its own is a very silly name, Kibblesmith. But what is disappointing about them is, number one, Marvel greenlighted this, which was unbelievable. I'm sure if Stan Lee or Jack Kirby were alive, they're rolling in their graves, because these aren't superheroes. They're ironic memes that have failed completely. Going on to the specific definition, it says that they view their superheroics as a post-ironic meditation on using violence to combat bullying, which is pseudo-philosophical bullshit. Number one, starting off with post-ironic. This is sort of this postmodernist, postmodernist bullshit that people have been trying to peddle. Post-ironic. What does that mean? You're past irony? Obviously, these are ironic characters because everyone knows that these names and these characters look fucking ridiculous, but they have no self-awareness. And the particular definition after giving that awful pseudo-philosophical definition says that they are... Jesus. They're probably streaming this, which is... It's how do you do, fellow teens? I don't care. The writer and the design for these characters, the writing for these characters are all atrocious. Moving on to the second from very right is the goth-looking kid is a kid known as B Negative, a living teen vampire who has his powers from a life-saving but rogue blood transfusion with Michael Morbius. Who's a minor Spider-Man character and a vampire, but he's a vampire. He looks like a twig. He looks like a spindly, creepy, emo goth character who, again, is dressed in black and pink like that's supposed to make him cool in a skin-tight outfit. Not cool, if you ask me. It's not appealing to a general demographic of teen as I am. And his design leaves a lot to be desired. He doesn't look like a vampire. He looks like a DeviantArt character. Look at my new Marvel DeviantArt character. Isn't he cool? His name's B Negative because it's a pun on blood, and he's a vampire. It's lazy writing at its most prevalent. B Negative himself is obsessed with, and this is in quotes, the classical pop culture of the 90s and 2000s, which is ridiculous. And he is quoted with saying, from Daniel Kibblesmith, a quote by B Negative is saying, "The world is a vampire, so am I." Lazy writing. It's bad. It's awful. As a aspiring novelist and writer, hearing this, honestly, coming out from Marvel, one of the biggest comic book companies in the entire world, with some of the most recognizable characters in the largest film industry. It's lazy writing and it's gross. And finally, finishing off with who people are calling the obese Dora the Explorer with the magic backpack, Trailblazer. Daniel Kibblesmith, in an interview with, I think it was The Wire or Vice, or Now This, or it might have also been posted on Marvel.com, says that she has a magic backpack of semi-divine origin, although in her description on the Marvel.com, on Marvel.com says that, and I quote, "It was gifted to her by God, but not the God you're thinking of. Not the God I'm thinking of. Are you kidding me? Because, of course, you have the most diverse cast of characters. Probably all of them are atheists. All of them have one political leaning. Very diverse, very diverse. You can put them all in one box. You read the descriptions without looking at the characters, and they sound like the same people. It's just like it's this postmodernist, and postmodernism is in the mid to late 90s. It was known as modernism, which is already weird because calling any time period modern is a oxymoron, because a paradox, because time being a linear stream, any modern which describes a current time period is quickly swept aside by the next second or millisecond or nanosecond. So this postmodernist, meaning that they have become disillusioned with modern political theory, which mostly stems from your postmodernist writer, include quite popular John Rawls and his Rawlsian theory of justice, which is the basis of modern Marxist socialism. This idea of we have to take everyone at the least common denominator and work with that, meaning you pick the poorest person in the room and make sure everyone gets what they get, which is it's Marxism, which has been adopted by the postmodernist movement. But going on to the comic books specifically, this disillusionism with God and religion, which is postmodernist. Nietzsche did a great book on this, and his philosophy focused a lot on the death of God and the death of God in our current political culture. But what we're seeing specifically is that this pseudo-diversity BS that Marvel is trying to peddle by Daniel Kibblesmith is not going to work out in the long run. So Trailblazer has a backpack of divine origin, but not the type of God you're thinking of, because fuck you Christians, you can't read this comic book, and or Jews or Muslims or deists of any kind. And she specifically, Trailblazer goes by she, her, is known to rush into to combat, to situations head on, take them head on, and lead the way, which everyone is making fun of her weight, be it that because they said she's probably not going to be rushing anywhere. I think that's a low form of comedy, of spitballing, but when you see superheroes, and we'll take a look at some of the old warriors here. When you see superheroes that are in peak physical condition, this is peak physical condition. Men and women all over the world have strived to look like superheroes. This goes from Iron Man, Thor, Captain America, all have bulging, muscles with the pectorals, the biceps, the triceps, forearms, back muscles, everything. They are in peak physical condition. We see here you have your superheroes that are in peak physical condition. You have Lady Namoretta, Marvel Boy, Night Thrasher, or Namoretta, Star. What is that? I believe it's Star. It's not Starfire. It's I can't make it out. But what you're seeing here is that these heroes are not the heroes that they're giving us. It's Firestar, Starfire, Firestar, same thing. Kid Nova and Speedball. These heroes, both in the old 90s and 80s style of comics and the newer revamped style of comics, are peak human physical condition. Can't get any better looking than this. And to say that this cast, number one, is not diverse is ridiculous. I mean, for God's sakes, they have a ginger. Everyone knows gingers don't have souls. But, Night Thrasher specifically is black. I don't know. I haven't read enough of the New Warriors to know exactly all about him. And the two women, Kid Nova, who has been revamped as a person of Latino descent. So it's not that, you want to get that surface level skin color and genital diversity. It's there. But what's more important is that all these characters look different. Speedball looks fun and energetic. Kid Nova looks powerful and like he's going to fly in there. Namoretta, who is the leader, the leader currently, looks strong and confident. And Night Thrasher is just jumping in there. And again, these characters are in peak physical condition. You look back at the New Warriors, and they're not. The stereotypical jock could be beat by any one of the original team, regardless of his powers. So, and this is the biggest issue with Marvel currently: is number one, lazy writing, and number two, succumbing to this base instinct of trying to please fans that aren't there. No self-respecting comic book reader would look at these New Warriors and say, "Oh, these are great. This is a fantastic step up." No, they don't. They don't look good. Their characters look bad. The writing is what I've seen so far is bad. And this is what I can get my hands on for a relatively low price, because I do not want to buy an issue of this to review it because it's so bad. Now, again, these original characters, you see them, peak physical condition. Back to these guys, you have a Twig, an overweight person, and the other two don't look interesting. They have underdeveloped, they don't look like heroes. If these people tried to rush in to save me, I'd be like, okay, screen time, Google anime titties, because apparently you can Google anything within seconds. And why don't and Trailblazer, you can pull a sandwich out of your bag. And the other ones would be crushed in seconds. The base issue with these characters is not that their powers are unoriginal. It's that the writing tries to feel new age and postmodern and post-ironic, as they use that term, and cool and hip with the kids, and no one likes this. No one likes this. Anyone who's encouraging this are media insiders. I mean Marvel insiders, who just want this comic book to sell so they can make their bottom line. Every comic book, I mean, even We Love Comics, which is a YouTube channel, did a video on this, and they trash them because they're not good-looking characters. This doesn't interest anyone. Their styles are gross. In my personal opinion, there's way too much pink, and their writing is atrocious. The base backstory, not a full backstory, but the basic backstory that they give for these characters is awful. It's bad writing. So so we trash them enough. Now let's ask, how could we improve them? Number one, make them look better. That's a basic idea. Make them look better. I might not be the greatest artist, but you see the original characters here. They look like heroes. Again, they look like heroes. Their stances, their poses, their physique, importantly, their physique makes them look like heroes. And it hasn't changed. Up here, Night Thrasher, who on the right, in the black and red suit, looks cool, like a hero, like he could kick ass. And you have Firestar and Namoretta over there, and they look good. They look good. These heroes don't. They look like you picked them up off of Tumblr. And that's the scariest part. Welcome, user Star we're discussing the New Warriors. So the basic idea with the New Warriors is that they're, number one, they're not interesting. Looking at these characters, what you're seeing a bunch of how they describe it, postmodernist, post-ironic, which I think is an unbelievably idiotic term, characters that are supposed to represent the modern, teenager or young adult. They don't. They're gross. They're gross looking. Every single character there looks ridiculous. Like they'd be in a one-off episode of Spider-Man the Animated Series, and everyone would laugh at them because they're so unbelievably poorly designed. And this is not the fault of the artist. The artist works with what they're given. This is the fault of the writer, Daniel Kibblesmith, who previously wrote for The Colbert Show, which makes me wonder how much slack his team needed to pick up because how poorly these people are written. So to finish this off, this basic idea between the characters, the old New Warriors and the new Warriors, the new Warriors don't look good and are written poorly. The old New Warriors look heroic, peak physical shape. This is what you want superheroes to look like. Having a overweight Captain America, mustard on his uniform and a hot dog sticking out of his back pocket doesn't impress anyone. It might be a fun visual gag, but having your character designed around that is ridiculous. And so this was just a simple word on an AWO, I apologize, AWO on the New Warriors. Now, finally, we're going to move on to continuing on to the shift in media. So this shift in media has been happening a long time, and I only got into it recently because when I started streaming, this is what I was interested in. I've always been a part of the media. I did broadcasting. I did journalism. I wrote for a high school paper. I do debates. I post. I draw. I look at everything. And what we see with the change in the media is this type of unrealistic desire to please a crowd that doesn't care about them. When Brie Larson says that her movie, Captain Marvel, is not for white men, or white straight men, well, who do you think makes up most of Marvel's base? Who do you think makes up most of the world? The country specifically. Maybe not the world because of China and India, but where it was released in America, originally released. Who do you think the country is? According to the 2010 census, 70% of the country is white. Take that, 35% of the country is white male. Minus that by maybe 0.02% of the LGBTQ community. So when you say, hey, I don't want over 30% of the country coming to my movie, her movie, apparently, it's not the studios, it's her movie, you're alienating what really gives Marvel its power. Marvel would not be powerful if not for the fat nerds that read their comic books, and they're forgetting this when they develop these comic book characters, because what comic books, what video games, what movies, what TV shows do is it's a power fantasy. When you see these new warriors, and you see them in peak physical condition, bulging biceps and muscles, beautiful women, what you're seeing is a power fantasy. You want to be a self-insert. No one wants to self-insert into these characters, the new warriors, because they're taking what was so amazing about Marvel, the superhero aspect, and just making it this bloated, ironic when talking about Trailblazer, but this bloated, gross, postmodernist trash. And it doesn't have anything to do with politics. I don't want this to be political. When we're talking philosophically, when I talk about postmodernism, what we're getting, what we're seeing is a group of people who have been disillusioned with the world, and why the hell are they writing comic books that are supposed to be the greatest median of our generation? Maybe not my generation specifically, that goes to video games. Think about Doom and Doom Eternal. The controversy that happened at E3 with the mortally challenged, is what they called the demons to try to be PC, and how that was taking number one as a joke, but also Doom guy, the Doom Slayer as he's called in the video games, what he is, and he is a power fantasy. When I play Doom 2016, and I'm not spending $60 right now to get Eternal, even though I'd love to support the creators. I don't have that kind of money on hand. Doom Eternal and Doom are power fantasies. When you get to be this person who obliterates skulls when he touches them, what you're getting from that is a power fantasy. You get to be that powerful guy. And, Doom guy. You get to be Doom Slayer, Doom guy. You get to walk through the halls of demons and watch them shriek and fear you. You get to grab a Hell Knight's head and smash it against the side of the wall and obliterate him, because it's a power fantasy. And that's what video games are. Video games that sell well and are prosperous. Think of Call of Duty. Think of Fallout. Think of Skyrim. The Elder Scrolls specifically. Think of Doom. Again, think of Tekken. Think of Super Smash Bros. Think of Mario, for God's sakes. Mario was one of the earliest power fantasies. You're saving the princess. Legend of Zelda, you're slaying monsters. Skyrim, you're the Dragonborn. You're the most important guy in the universe, or in Nirn, the world. So when you have these pop culture icons, such as Marvel, I'm putting very large quotation marks around icons, when you have these pop culture icons become not power fantasies, but a postmodernist, or post, how they describe it again, post-ironic meditation, then it's no longer interesting for the millions of people who just want to feel powerful in their day-to-day lives, especially now, with the coronavirus. That might date this video, but especially with the coronavirus, what we are seeing is that people would like to feel powerful in a world that makes them feel powerless. And that's why these games, that's why these original comic books, that's why everything feels so good to watch and read because you get to escape the detriment that is the world and become powerful for your average viewer and consumer. And so this change, this shift in medium to rejecting this power fantasy, regardless if it's male, regardless if it's female, doesn't matter. You're changing this power fantasy into a political statement, a philosophical political statement that you think is interesting. And the sad the sad thing about it is it's not. It's not. The announcement on r/Marvel got 119,000 downvotes when it was released. What does that say to the Marvel community, to its writers, to its editors, to its publishers? Don't do this because no one cares. So we're left we're left with a media standpoint, a media position that doesn't care about its consumers. And that's the scariest part of this transition, and it's been happening forever. The infamous scene when Captain America, the Nazi fighter numero uno, if I could throw a little culture in there, said Hail Hydra, that comic book tanked. Secret Empire, which is where it comes from, was destroyed. And so that's the biggest and most serious issue with the current nerd. I'm gonna put quotations around that nerd median. And the one thing that you really don't want to see when searching for power fantasy is someone to take that power away from you. If they made, that's why Doom 3 was not well received, because it changed the genre from this unbelievably fast-paced hack and slash shoot 'em up to a survival horror game. But that's not what people wanted, and that's why Doom 2016 sold so well, because Doom 2016 put the power back into the fantasy. That's why The Witcher's amazing, because you are the Witcher. You know, you are a Witcher, I should say. Geralt of Rivia, the Butcher of Blaviken, the person who can solve your monster troubles because he knows how to kill them. I apologize for that interruption. That was a little bit of my power fantasy being on this chat being taken away. So, again, to finish this off, to leave you just with a slight thing to think about, a word on the current median, is that if these medians don't understand that the reason people buy them is not for a philosophical postmodernist view, post-ironic postmodernist view of superheroics, it's to feel powerful, then the industry is going to crash. That's why Star Wars works. That's why the Marvel movies worked when you watched Iron Man and he hit someone against a wall and it broke them and he shot lasers. That's why it worked. So we have to bring back the power fantasy. It doesn't matter the gender or whatever you want to say. That we have to bring back the power fantasy, the power back into fantasy. Thank you for watching. My name is Joyous Hellfire, and this was A Word On.